Great. So, hello, I'm Rachel Moorhead, Head of Music at Queen's Radio, and today I'm joined with the incredible Tom Walker. Tom, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. So, I want to start off talking about the new single Burn, which is incredible, by the way. What was the inspo behind the song?
Um, I think just that I was writing for a long time for this album, and me and the label kind of started butting heads together about what was right and what wasn't. And I think I handed it in so many songs where they were kind of like, "This isn't it," and "This isn't quite right." And eventually, I just went back to the drawing board, and I was like, "Right, I just need to set fire to everything that's come before this, and just try something that's completely new, that's a bit left field, a bit off the wall." And I was really fortunate to get in with a bunch of writers called the McDonough brothers and their mate Ryan Daly. And we wrote this song together after a bit of a long-winded argument about what the album should be and what the singles are and the rest of it. And I kind of just went back to the drawing board and wrote this with them. And I think you can really hear the kind of anger and the aggression coming out in this song. And it's like really raw, but the production's super exciting and different to anything that I've done before. So yeah, I'm totally buzzing about it. And the reaction so far has been amazing.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were you nervous putting it out? Because it is quite different from your other tracks. Was there sort of a little bit of fear, and would the audience enjoy it the same way they have with your previous tracks? But what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you release new music, there's always a bit of a nervousness about whether the fan base that loved your first album or the stuff that's come before that are going to dig it. But I just love it so much, and it makes me feel so creatively fulfilled. And I think that's kind of that's the most important bit, because after all, why are you doing this job? I'm doing it because I absolutely adore making music and being in the studio and going out and gigging. And I don't want to be in a position where I'm singing a song on a stage that I'm not happy with. So you kind of have to just take a bit of a gamble, I think, and do something that you absolutely would die for and hope that other people love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that realness to the lyrics that's probably really so connecting for the audience. And I think that feeling of anger as well. We've all been there with a project where you get news that someone doesn't like it, and it's so frustrating. And I can only imagine for you, because songwriting is such a personal process, playing your music, and if someone doesn't like it, I can imagine that's really difficult to hear.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely comes with the territory of being an artist, but yeah, it does. I think that's the thing. Like when you're writing for your own project, you almost care too much about it, so you can kind of take it to heart when everything's getting rejected and sent back, and if people aren't connecting with the song, like it can hurt sometimes. So I'm so buzzing that we've been out and we've played this live, and everybody seems to be loving it, and yeah, it's been a wicked kind of first week and a half since release. So really happy.
Yeah, I've seen some clips of you performing in Glasgow and it looked amazing. What was that like? Because I know you're Scottish as well, your parents are Scottish. So what was like that like heading up to a Scottish crowd? They always are quite good fun at a gig. What was that like playing for them?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, we did a little kind of 3 day tour, which was I actually ended up being 4 days because we had it on a day in the middle on the way back. But places that I kind of considered to be home are like, Scotland, Manchester, and London, because at one point in my life I've lived there for an extended period of time. And obviously, every time I get back to Scotland, it's so amazing. I get to see like all my family that I've not seen for a long time. Like I got to spend a good bit of time with my gran, who I've not seen since April. So that was so lovely. I went round to hers and we had like a curry night and had a few bevs, and then obviously getting back up to play for the fans in Scotland is always an amazing experience. And I was really keen with this kind of little run of shows we were doing to celebrate the release of Burn. I was keen to make it all free, so it was free in Scotland, it's free in Manchester. So and loads of people came down, and a couple of the events weren't in like traditional venues, so people were able to bring their kids along and stuff, which we've not had a lot of in the past because obviously venues have got age restrictions. So it was really lovely and like kind of wholesome event to be in Scotland doing that.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible as well to hold events that are free, and especially in current conditions, at times are hard, not everyone can afford with the price of concert tickets. So I think that's lovely as well to do some events for free. And as you said, getting children down as well and introducing them to music, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was like a couple of, like younger people like at the front, like dancing away to Burn and all that, which was really cool to see. And yeah, a few families that showed up and stuff like that, which was really lovely. And like a couple of like my cousins and stuff came down, which was amazing. So yeah, it was really nice.
Sounds amazing. Speaking about performing live, tell me about the Subterranean tour that's coming up very soon.
Yeah, so we wanted to do like a tour, to kind of play a bunch of new songs from the new album that people haven't heard yet, and I was really kind of interested to do gigs in spaces that haven't had gigs in them before. You know what I mean? So we're playing at like an underground tunnel in London. We're playing a couple of different caves. So it's like a whole new experience, I think, for fans to come to, and something I've not really done before, you know, playing in a cave. I mean, logistically, it's a nightmare trying to find a PA that goes into a cave and get power for it and all that has been no easy task. But I think it'll be something brand new that the fans haven't seen before, which is super cool.
Absolutely. It sounds incredible. Where did the idea come from? Was that you yourself, or was it someone in your team? Where did that come from?
Me and the management, we were just talking about like what we could do differently this time, you know, because obviously we've done uh, a bunch of small venues around the UK, which is amazing. And you know, we wanted to do that. Like when we went to Manchester the other day, we did Night and Day, which is one of my favourite small venues. I've played in King Tut's in Scotland a lot. It's one of my favourite smaller venues, but we just wanted to try something a little bit different. It's just doing something a bit out of the norm. I think is just an exciting new way to do it. So yeah, it was me and the management that came up with that. They've organised most of it, so good on them for finding these amazing venues because it wasn't an easy task.
Absolutely. I can only imagine the risk assessments for that one. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll be handing out hard hats on the way in.
yeah, I can imagine there's so much technical stuff going behind that. Incredible. But can we hope to see you come to Belfast anytime soon? Could we persuade you over for a wee gig?
Yeah, I think in April we'll be making our way over that way. Absolutely. We're just figuring out the kind of touring schedule for next year. This year, probably not, because I've got to finish the album, which is due to be handed in by like December. So I'm in the process of like spending a lot of time in the studio getting the last mixes and productions done. But yeah, certainly next year we'll be over at some point.
That sounds fabulous. And I'm sure you're so busy at the minute working on the album. Can you tell us anything about it? What we can expect?
I mean, just I think Burn is a real blueprint for the sound of this album. It's not all as heavy, you know what I mean? There's definitely some more, I don't know, stuff that's a tiny bit reminiscent of the last album, but it really is like a fresh palette for me. Like I've really pushed myself as a writer, as a producer, as certainly as a singer. Like some of these songs, I'm singing a lot of falsetto stuff and different techniques that I've never really tried before. The McDonough brothers really pushed me in the studio, like these 3 hour vocal sessions, like squeezing every last bit of talent out of me. So yeah, it's just a brand new, exciting sound, and I'm really buzzing for people to finally hear it.
Sounds absolutely incredible. What is the writing process like for you? Does it start with more of the instrumental or is it more a lyric? What comes first for you?
Do you know what? I've not found this magical formula. There's so many writers who are like, I do this and then I do that. And like, I find if I just do the same thing every time, I get the same result. So I try and mix it up as much as possible and go to different spaces, different studios, work with different people. You know, I do a lot of writing at home on my own. I've got a little studio in my place, but there's no like definitive, like, here's the answer of how I do it. I like to try and collaborate as much as possible because I think when you work with really talented people, their talent kind of bounces off on you and you learn a lot from, you know, writing in other countries. Like I've done quite a bit of writing in America for this album out in LA, and I went to Nashville for a trip, which was absolutely incredible. So just trying to get out there and have as many experiences in different settings writing music is just such an inspiring thing that I would encourage any writers or musicians to do.
Fabulous. Who would you say are your musical inspirations? Do you have any standout ones, maybe from childhood or even currently?
I mean, from childhood, there's so many. I was really into rock music. So, like, you know, AC/DC, Foo Fighters, Sum 41. Definitely more recently, like, I obviously love Adele, love Billie Eilish, like Kaleo, Imagine Dragons. They've definitely, production wise, has been a real kind of drawing point for this album. I wanted to make something that sounded big that would fit into stadiums, you know. So yeah, they're a few of my favorites.
Fabulous. Who would you love to collab with that you've not worked with before?
Oh, I always say the same thing because I love Paolo Nutini. I absolutely adore his music. He's like one of my favorite artists of all time, and I love that he kind of goes away for 5 years and comes back with this totally different album that is nothing like the one that came before it, but is equally as amazing. So he's definitely one of my absolute favorites of all time. I'd love to do you know what? Even rather than collaborate, I just love to have a beer with the guy and just hang out. I think he's such an amazing musician and writer.
Yeah, I would love an invite along and I'd love to hear that collab. That would be incredible. But how did you originally get into music?
Sorry?
How did you originally get into music?
My dad was such a like avid music fan. And you know, my mum like is not massively into going to concerts, but my dad loved it. So I think I ended up becoming like basically his concert buddy. You know, he would take me to everything he was going to, and it was such a wide range of different stuff. Like we go to jazz concerts, classical, blues, rock, electronic music. Like I remember coming home as a teenager, like after several beers, thinking, "Oh, my dad's going to be up. He's going to give me a hard time," and he'd be in the living room listening to Dead Mouse. I'm like up full, whole house is shaking. You know what I mean? So he was such an inspiration of bringing new and exciting music into the house, and you know, taking me to see these amazing musicians perform live. And you know, I miss it. When I lived at home, I went to see concerts so more often than I actually do now. Like, so I really miss that with my dad. To be honest, he was such an inspiring like person in my life that really pushed me to do music. It wasn't like, don't do this. This is a gamble. It was like, you love this. It makes you happy. You should go after it. And I don't think there's a lot of parents who would necessarily do that because music's such a gamble of a job. So yeah, really, really very fortunate to have the parents that I've got.
Definitely. What was the first instrument you learned to play?
Learned to play well, actually it was violin, but I was so shocking at it. Oh my god. Yeah. So my poor parents for like 3 years, I think, put up with me playing screeching along upstairs on the violin. But eventually I'd been begging my dad. He took me to see AC/DC when I was 9. I've been begging him for 4 years to buy me a guitar. Like, please buy me a guitar. I really, really want to get into like, you know, shredding basically. And eventually, you know, he did when I was like, I think 12. And ever since then, it's kind of, it just made sense to me, that instrument. Like violin was so difficult. I never sounded good on it ever, but guitar made sense to me. And yeah, he bought me my first guitar for my birthday when I was like 12.
Fabulous. What advice would you give to any aspiring musicians?
Just make something that you love. You know, there's so many opinions going about these days, and I worry that a lot of young musicians' definition of success is slowly becoming having a viral moment rather than writing a great song. Um, and there really is the whole 10,000 hours thing. You know, like the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. Eventually, you're going to get so good if you and literally from the age of like 11, 12 onwards, I was just locked in my room playing guitar, writing songs, like and eventually learning production. I was just obsessed with it. So if you really love something, just go for it and just put everything into it and don't listen to too many opinions. Just make something that you absolutely love.
Yeah, that's so true. What do you think of the whole social media side of things with music now with TikTok and all that? What's your opinions on that? Do you think it's good for the music industry or do you prefer the kind of old grassroots style?
I mean, I think it's a wonderful technology to have around in terms of self promotion. You know, you can build up a fan base all on your own online now, which is, you know, something that you couldn't do 10, 20, 30 years ago. Um, so I think that's like a real advantage, but I also think it does have disadvantages where people are obsessed with numbers and results and you know how many followers they've got, and like I just think that can be a bit unhealthy sometimes. Like, don't chase a viral moment constantly because like sometimes things go viral, the oddest things go viral for no apparent reason. Then you pour your heart and soul into a track and post it and it gets 3 views. Like, it's not the be all and end all of everything. I think it's a wonderful like promotion tool, and you know, an exciting space for like musicians to come together and collaborate and you know, create new sounds all around the world. Like, you don't have to be in the studio with somebody in England. You can collaborate with somebody out in the US, no problem. That's amazing. But yeah, just don't forget why you started doing it in the first place, because it's fun and it's a laugh. It's not all about chasing numbers and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think that's very true. But now I have a very important question, and that is who is your music guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Oh wow. Guilty pleasure. I don't really know. Like, probably like Little Mix back in the day. I always thought those tunes banged so hard. Like, the production was always so amazing that I was like, this is not my type of thing that I would buy. But when it comes on in the car, I'm like, wow, this is such a tune. So yeah, I definitely think that that's probably my guilty pleasure.
That is a great one. If you had to pick a favorite song from them, though, what one would it be?
Oh, Black Magic for sure. It's just
Oh,
such a banger. I love that song.
yeah, it had a great music video as well.
Yeah. So great. I mean, yeah, they had some really the creme de la creme of pop songs. Like, you know, and the productions were just unbelievable. So yeah.
Right, and speaking of music videos, the music video for Burn is also class. Do you enjoy that side of it too?
No, I hate music videos. I hate shooting them. If I'm perfectly honest, I can't stand it. I'm not an actor. I'm a musician, so I feel so awkward. I start to get sweaty. Everyone's looking at me. I've got to do this like performance. I love playing gigs. Like I do not mind doing that at all. But the whole experience of a music video, like super interesting to see how everything's filmed. And you know, for Burn, we had loads of pyro on the day, which was amazing. I've never used pyro in a video before. That was such a great experience. But yeah, it's, you know, singing the same song for 8 hours essentially over and over and over again. It looks great when you get it back and you're like, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, it's not my favorite thing to do with my day, if I'm honest. I'd rather be in the studio.
I can imagine. It does sound pretty tough singing it over and over and having a camera on you all day. Is that probably the only downfall? Is there any other sides of maybe being an artist that you don't enjoy so much?
Um, I think one of the things is like this never being able to like switch off really. I think there's so many people who want to do music, so you really do have to be like the person who works very, very hard at it and never takes their foot off the gas and all that. And I think that can be unhealthy sometimes to just every aspect of your life to be your job. And I've missed out on weddings and parties and gatherings and loads of stuff over the years when I was doing my first album. So I'm kind of keen this time to like find a better balance because it can't be everything in your life. You need to have some other thing, and you need to be inspired as well. You need to go out and have experiences that aren't doing what you do musically to in order to write good songs. So I've definitely found a little bit of a better balance on this album and still working on that. But yeah, it's just being on 24/7 is can get to you after a while.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Tom. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you in Belfast soon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Rachel. I appreciate it. Nice one.
Thank you.
Yes.